For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. Happy Halloween to ya. That's what I gotta say. We're still a couple days away. Depending on when you're listening to this, Halloween might be coming up. It might be today. It might be past already. But I've got some cheapskate tips for you if you have not started your Halloween planning just yet. Tips on how you can save some money from my best-selling book. That's coming up. And also, I want to know about your Halloween growing up as a kid. Were you into it more than you are as an adult now? I'll share some stories with you in just a little bit. And also, the very first and second Halloween in my house were kind of disappointing. As a new homeowner, I was stoked. I was really excited to have all the kids come by. I'll tell you about why it was a big disappointment in just a little bit. Are you ready? Because we got a lot to talk about here on The Scribble, and it starts right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on The Scribble, talking all about Halloween today. We're going to have a spooktacular time. That's what I've got to say. Do you remember years ago, the first time you saw that, maybe you thought it was clever, and now what my takeaway from that word, spooktacular, my takeaway is we couldn't come up with anything else, so we'll default to that. Really, because you see that everywhere. And I feel sorry because it's probably in the store. It wasn't a corporate office decision, I'm guessing. It was probably somebody in the store who thinks they're creative and clever that decides to use the word spooktacular. I'm serious. I think, or that the savings are scary or whatever it is. It's just like every bad Halloween line just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Don't even try. Just say it's a Halloween sale. That's what you need to tell us. That's all we need to know. I'm not a bitter Halloween person. I'm just not into it as an adult. But I want to tell you some stories about when I was growing up. I think trick-or-treating is a little bit different nowadays. And global warming, I think, has also changed it. Because I recall having to get in my snowsuit some Halloweens, and we always had to get a costume in Canada. We always had to get a costume 2 sizes bigger because you needed to fit your snowsuit under it. That's a reality of life back in the day. And you would trick-or-treat as long as you could stand it. And what I mean by that is until your fingers were about to fall off or your legs or your toes were too cold, something. And then we would go back. My 2 older brothers and me, we would go up and down our street. And then we would come in, warm up a little bit, dump all of our candy, which I'm sure my mom was going and taking the stuff that she didn't want us to have. I'm sure she was going and reusing that, right? Giving it to the kids that come to our house. And then we would go back out and we would run again. Now, I don't believe that once we were old enough, and I don't remember exactly how old, I honestly don't remember my parents coming with us. They probably did, my mom did when we were single digits, maybe when we were 5 or 6 years old, but I don't recall parents ever coming trick-or-treating with us. Now it seems like it's a fact of life that parents do, and maybe that's a good thing, right? Because there's so many scary things in the neighborhood, right? Kidnapping, getting jumped, beaten up, whatever it is. Parents just don't have that security like they did back in the day. Kind of sad though, but at the same time, safety first. I'm not saying that, just let your kids go because I don't want to be held liable. I appreciate a parent who wants to ensure their child's safety. And it just seems like trick-or-treating is just not the same these days because you would look forward to coming home from school that day. You'd get dressed up. You didn't even want to have supper. You did not even want supper. You were ready to go and get that candy. And we would do that. And then at the end of the night, we would go downstairs. My room was upstairs, but my brothers shared a room in the basement. And we would take our haul of candy, dump it on the floor, and we would trade, right? If you had brothers or sisters, you probably did this. I'd love to hear your stories. And my brothers, I was fortunate because we all liked different kinds of candy. I never did like the chewy candy, so like gummy bears or anything like that. I never liked those. And then my other brother liked chocolate bars with like peanuts and other things in it. I always just liked the regular chocolate. We didn't have cookies and cream and stuff back in the day, so we didn't have that. And then I liked just kind of like the regular candy. Gumballs, Rockets, which was also a real favorite of mine back in the day, lollipops, things like that. So we were very fortunate that we all liked different things. And there was times when I'm sure my brothers were going into my room when I wasn't around and taking some of my candy, and I know that I did to theirs every once in a while. But you made the best deals. That's, I think, maybe where you started to get your entrepreneurial skills, was figuring out how to negotiate Halloween candy from your siblings. Would love to hear your thoughts on that. Did you do that? Live at jbonair.com. Live at jbonair.com. It was just, that was one of those things where you always think, hey, you know what, I'm getting a good deal. Because really, at the end of the day, you're giving away the stuff that you don't like. So in all honesty, it doesn't really matter what you're getting in return. You weren't going to eat that whatever it was anyway, so you'll take what you can get for it, right? It took me a little while to realize that fact, but anyway, one of the good things about having big brothers is they taught me how to negotiate my candy wheeling and dealing. Again, live at jbonair.com. I'm going to tell you about why my first and second Halloween in my house were less than impressive right after this.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. Remember, some of my cheapskate tips for a really thrifty Halloween are coming your way, and I think we probably played that on the show last year, but it's worth repeating because Halloween can be a very expensive time. I used to work at Party City. Years ago, Party City was in Canada. It was actually about 2 years or so, and then shut down, closed down. It went like Sears, gone, and it's slowly been coming back into Canada now. But I was an assistant manager there, and we used to write off a whole bunch of stock and inventory because we decorated for Halloween, right? You've seen that, the displays when you walk into a store. And being a party store, of course, we wrote off one of like everything. And there was some really expensive stuff. And maybe this is where the business model for Party City didn't work in Canada, was because we were expected to just throw out the decorations after Halloween, after Christmas. We had no room to keep them, so we were supposed to throw them out. Well, we took them home. Management, we're long gone. I think the statute of limitations on theft was probably over now. But we would take home some pretty expensive decorations. Now, at the time, I lived with my parents, and so my space was limited. But basically, I was stockpiling all of these decorations from every holiday in my parents' basement. When I bought my own house, I was able to furnish my holidays to the nines. I mean, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of stuff. We had this giant flame lamp. It was kind of like a standing tall lamp you'd have in the corner of your living room. $200. And it actually looked pretty real from a distance. It looked like it was a flame. And so I've got that. I've got a whole bunch of things. Well, now that I've got my own house, the very first Halloween, I thought, hey, I want to like really fit into the neighborhood. This is my first opportunity. I hate kids. I really do. But I thought, I'll do this for the kids. I've got probably the best decorations of anyone in the neighborhood because, hello, that's what I did for a job. And so what I did was that afternoon, I had spent much of the afternoon decorating the front window. I've got this big pine tree in front of my house, so you actually can't see into my living room window unless you're like coming right up the front sidewalk. And so I would put a bunch of things in the window, and then I would run outside and look just to see if it's lined up. Can I see it okay? If I go inside, readjust, move things around, go running back outside, look at it again. I really did spend much of the afternoon, probably morning and afternoon, doing that. In the front doorway, I had a whole bunch of like the spider webbing. I had a fog machine that kind of through the crack of the door, so every time I would open it, the fog would blow out. And just, again, doing it for the kids. I didn't really get anything out of it, but I wanted them to have a fun time. So I'd spent all this time doing it. My friend, I was talking to my friend, and he's like, okay, I've got to see this. But I think I really kind of oversold it. But anyway, he came and he checked it out. And then he said to me, well, what kind of candy are you giving? And I hadn't planned that yet. So we went to Costco. I went to Costco with him. He's got a membership. And I had to buy, they've got that 60-pound box of chocolate that you can get for Halloween, Costco sized. And I got that. And then he puts the fear in me saying, there's an elementary school just right down the street, not even a 5-minute walk. You're going to have a lot of kids that are going to come. So I said, okay, you're right. And that was my big fear, was that I'm going to have a group of 5 kids come to my door and only have enough candy for 3 of them, right? And then at that point, I'm going to have to start giving cash, like, here, take my dog. Like, that was my fear. Just at the end of the night, I'm not going to have enough for everybody that comes to the door. You can shut your light off right after that and not worry about it, but it's that one group. I'm expecting a big group to come, and then there would be that sadness. And so I ended up buying a lot of chocolate. And thankfully, it was stuff that I would eat. I don't have much of a sweet tooth, so it wasn't like I was going to just sit and eat the chocolate, but I would eventually eat it just because, I bought it and I had it. And so I then was getting ready. Evening rolls around, the sun sets, it's dark outside, and I'm waiting, and I'm kind of like pacing. I was sort of excited, and I'm waiting for kids to come. And I'm waiting for kids to come, and I'm waiting for kids to come. Then my dad calls me. My mom is one of those people that she keeps a running tally every year of how many kids come to the door. I don't really know what she does with it. Maybe she files it away. She probably knows 1996 how many kids came to the door. And so my dad called and asked how many kids that I had, and I'd said none. It was literally 0. Still had no kids. And then he asked my mom, and she said like 20-something or whatever they had at the time. And so he's like, oh, well, they're probably, was just still having dinner and on their way. Tried to sugarcoat it, make it feel a little bit not as devastating. And then I'm basically sitting on the couch looking out the front window. And I'm waiting for the kids to come. And I'm waiting. And then I could even see a bunch of them going right by. And I thought, why aren't they coming to my door? So then I start taking it personally, and I'm actually like getting upset at that point. And I didn't know. It just bothered me so bad. And at the end of the night, and I can't say that it was no kids that came, but it certainly wasn't, hundreds. It wasn't even dozens. It was maybe, you know what, I don't even remember. It was less than 20, I would guess. And I just felt so bad because I had spent hours decorating. I went out and bought all this candy, waiting to like have the kids go, wow, cool decorations or something. And I got very little in terms of foot traffic and attention that night. So rather than throw in the towel the next year, what I did was I had that same friend come by, and I said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make this a drinking game. For every, I don't remember exactly, like we've flipped a coin, heads was boys, tails was girls. So for every boy that comes, you're going to do a shot. For every girl that comes, I'm going to do a shot. That kind of a thing. And I remember there weren't many kids that had come before, so it's not like we were going to get loaded out of our trees, because watch with my luck, that's what would have happened, right? We would have had 85 kids come to the door, and we're out of booze at that point, and we're stumbling around. No, that didn't happen. But again, it was the same sort of a turnout. There wasn't that much much attendance that year. And then after that, I kind of just stopped doing Halloween at my house. I really did. I don't know that I did a third Halloween at my place. I was that house, and I still am that house, where you have all your lights off and you pretend that you're not home, just so that you don't have the kids coming up to your front door and yelling. And we used to yell Halloween apples. That was what we used to say, not trick or treat. Now it seems it's maybe a generational thing that they shout trick or treat when they come to your door. And I don't know. And then, it seems like towards the end of the night, it was the older kids that were coming. And again, maybe that's just because the younger kids are in bed, and the older kids want to come out and beat up the kids for their candy. But you can always tell when it's sort of that. It's the last part of the night when it's the bigger kids coming. And I don't know, maybe there should be an age cutoff. But I always looked really young. So even when I was like 14, 15, 16, I was still trick-or-treating just because I could. And my brothers and I didn't put that much effort into our Halloween costumes towards the end. Again, back in the day when you were a kid, you would spend weeks thinking about what you wanted, and you'd come home from school and get ready right then and there. And towards the end, my brothers and I were just like, I would put on a hockey jersey. My brothers played hockey, so I would just put on a hockey jersey, and that was my costume. I didn't even try. They're still going to give you candy anyway. I don't think that I ever went to a house and they said, oh, no, too old. They might not give you as much, but they're still going to give you candy, right? I mean, that was the great thing about it. So I don't know. I would love to hear about your neighborhood. Do you still have many kids coming? I live not that far from where I grew up, so for me, it's not. Well, it is a different neighborhood, but it's not entirely different. But it certainly does seem that there aren't as many kids nowadays. And again, like I said earlier, we weren't trick-or-treating with my parents. They weren't really coming when we were 10, 11, 12. It just was a different time back then. So now, again, I appreciate that parents are coming to make sure their kids are safe. But yeah, it's a different time. Again, my email address, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. When we come back, some of my Halloween cheapskate tips for you. It's right here on the Scribble.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Cheapskate Checkpoint on the Scribble, brought to you by cheapskatebook.com. If you're a stupid spender, become a genius saver at cheapskatebook.com. Here's best-selling tight-ass Jeremy Bradley.
You freak.
Something scarier than Halloween costumes is the price of them. It seems that you have to save up just to get the actual outfit, much less the accessories to go with it to complete the look. It's true that the expensive costumes from a store are impressive and will catch people's attention, but sometimes the creativity of making your own is funnier, but more importantly, more fun. I'm not suggesting you grab items from around the house to put together a lame costume. Well, I guess you can if that's what you're looking for, but half the fun in getting ready for Halloween is the planning and, if you're like me, seeing how much you can make it work for little money. Thinking about what's popular this year, let's say Jersey Shore, I know we're going back a few years, on some costume store websites you could get a costume for about $40. If you're like me, you might think that doesn't sound like much initially, but if you do some creative thinking, you can make the outfit for about $9. It is not hard to find muscle shirts and slinky black dresses at a thrift store. In fact, a dress for $2 is not unheard of at many stores. It is tacky, it is short, it does the trick. And you have to have the shoes to go with the outfit. Guess what? 50 cents for a pair of heels at the thrift store. Remember, the joke of dressing like a Jersey Shore character is to look ridiculous. So, the dress is bought. Next, you need the hair. You'd be surprised how easy and cheap it is to spray paint your hair and stick an empty soup can underneath to give it that poof. You know what I'm talking about. You could go all out and buy the official Jersey Shore wig for $15, but a $2 bottle of hairspray paint and an empty can from the recycling bin is way more economical. To complete the look, many people opt for orange face paint to exaggerate the tans of the MTV cast. A quick trip to the dollar store can score you a $1 tube of face paint. Also, getting ridiculous sunglasses, the bigger the better, will seal the deal and make you look like a Jersey Shore star. As for the kids, they will naturally want the expensive costumes of the trendy characters that are out now. Like I mentioned before, part of the fun of Halloween is planning and the involvement to make your own customized costume. It won't take much convincing to have the kids agree to start from scratch and have a good time picking out all the details of their own costume. Let's make it something special like nobody else has, you could say. Everybody is going to be wearing the one from the store. Let's make your own. This is where trips to discount stores and craft shops will come in handy and save you a bundle. Buying some material or construction paper, or even just getting ideas walking up and down the aisles of the stores will help. When Prince William and Kate's royal wedding happened, I was on a mission to create a hilarious hat to watch the ceremony. I had a goal and accomplished it by putting in a little time and effort. So, you've completed your look for Halloween, but how are you dressing up your home? Years ago, when I worked at a party supply store, people were coming in and spending hundreds of dollars for decorations to have the flashiest house on the block. And that's great if it's a passion of theirs to create a spectacular spectacle, but let's be realistic. Is it necessary to go overboard like that? It really isn't. I am a firm believer that dollar stores should be ransacked when it comes to holiday decorating. There were many decorations our party store sold for $15 that you can get for $1 or $2 at a discount store. Don't get me wrong, the quality might not be as good, but if it is simply a decoration that's going to hang on a wall or outside for one day of the year, durability shouldn't be an issue. Even if it is, at $2 to replace it, you're not all that bad off. Many stores sell decorations at inflated prices. For instance, glow-in-the-dark products are generally available all year round. Just putting those products in a Halloween section can see the price skyrocket. How do I know? I was one of the employees that had to move them there and mark up the price. Black light bulbs and other types of lighting are not specifically a Halloween product. If you buy some earlier in the year, you might be able to get them cheaper. The party store I managed was great at re-merchandising products to tie them in with different events. Like costumes, decorations take planning. Thankfully, I had stockpiled decorations after my employment at the party store, but take into consideration what and where you are decorating before you go crazy and overspend. I made that mistake by getting even more stuff when I moved into a bigger house. All I was decorating was the front window that is actually mostly entirely hidden by a big tree and the front doorway. I rushed out to get more things, but when it came time to actually set the stuff up and open up the packages, I had no use for most of it. Halloween is one of those tricky decorating times because unless you're hosting a party or having people over for a Halloween-related event, you don't need to dress up a large area of your home. For me, it was all about the visuals as people went by, and then when kids spent that 5 seconds getting candy before rushing off at my door. I had previously bought a strobe light and fog machine, but as I fumbled with opening the door, holding it open, giving the kids the candy, and making sure I wasn't forgetting anybody, the last thing on my mind was the wow factor of a blast of fog for the kids. Depending on where you live, you might even have troubles with your windows fogging up, as the cool fall air mixed with the indoor heat makes a mess of any sort of window decorations you have. Sometimes less is more with decorating. You have to remember Halloween isn't a season, so overdoing it like you would for Christmas might not be the smartest financial decision. For the most part, Halloween is completely forgotten about the next day. Actually, I took a lesson from my mom, who sets up Halloween decorations the day of and takes them down when she shuts off the front light and calls it a night once the trick-or-treaters have gone. The key to a great Halloween is keeping the costs down and the creativity up.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
Oh, Jeremy Bradley here, back on The Scribble. We really didn't time the show properly today because normally we should have about a minute and a half, 2 minutes to wrap this thing up, and we've got 7 minutes. So that's podcast planning 101. This is called vamping, by the way. That means that I've got several minutes to kill. Let's keep talking Halloween, though, because I often wonder what percentage of employees at a workplace dress up for Halloween. Do you dress up? It's one thing to go into school when you're a kid and dress up for Halloween. Okay, it's expected you're a kid, but do you dress up for Halloween? What percentage of your coworkers dress up? I would love to hear about this. Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com, because I don't think it's very much. Unless you have, like some of the workplaces that I know will do like a group decorating contest and then a team costume to sort of win a prize or something. Okay, that makes sense and you would dress up. But do you ever just see some random person like dressed up and you wonder, like, are you Are you 12 years old? Are you still a child? How does this work? So, although I guess if there's a workplace that has a very strict dress code, there's a lot of places where a guy cannot wear shorts. And so this would be a great opportunity to just go in as, I don't know, like a costume that would wear shorts, like one of the Mario Brothers, or I'm trying to think what kind of a costume a guy would, what kind of like Peter Pan maybe, that's kind of shorts. I guess that's tights in a way. Right, but that would be your one day where a guy can come in wearing shorts, or go as like a beach bum surfer and you can wear sandals. How many workplaces can you not wear sandals? Now I'm kind of getting into this now. Great opportunity to finally break the dress code and wear the stuff that you shouldn't. It's not inappropriate, right? It's not like I'm having naughty parts hanging out and offending people. I'm just not following the dress code. I couldn't imagine working in a place like that. I really couldn't. But what is the craziest costume you've ever seen somebody come into a workplace wearing? Because the HR departments are always on high alert, right? They have to make sure that you're not showing too much cleavage, or you're not dressed as something inappropriate or offensive. But when you think about it, nowadays, it doesn't take much to get offended. So I think you really have to tiptoe. You've got to tread lightly when it comes to picking your Halloween costume, I think, these days. But anyway, again, we've got the pictures of my dogs in their Halloween costumes. Go to our website, thescribbleshow.com, and then we'll link you through, and you can see Ernie and Basil in their Superman costumes. They've got Batman and Superman, and Where's Waldo, a peacock, a sunflower, Shrek, Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. Both of my dogs are males, but there's nothing wrong with a little cross-dressing, right? There's nothing wrong with being a little bit of a drag queen every now and then. They've got their tendencies. But anyway, go to thescribbleshow.com, and if your pet has Halloween costumes, I'd love to see that. Send me an email. live@jbonair.com. live@jbonair.com. It's always interesting to see what the costume of the year will be. I wonder how many kids will go as Donald Trump this year. Do you think that there's going to be a few kids dressed up? I don't know. I mean, kids know who he is, right? They might not necessarily know the politics or the drama behind the politics, but see, that was something that was always fun. When I was a young adult anyway, is you go with something timely, right? You go with a costume that will get people talking. That's what I would do. I don't know that I would go for the big elaborate costume that's going to take me an hour and a half to wedge myself in and do the makeup. I'm going to go for a costume that will make people laugh and go, oh my God. Like, that's why I want them to keep talking about it tomorrow and the day after and the day after, was because it was so hilarious and so on point that it was timely, current events, relevant, instead of just, oh, he came in as a goblin and had these special effects and oozing blood out of his face and all these wounds and scars and things. I want something funny. I want something that people are going to talk about tomorrow. So I don't dress up for Halloween, despite all of this rambling. I've gone into some great detail about the kind of costume I would wear if I wore Halloween costumes. I really don't, though. That's the truth of the matter. I really do not dress up for Halloween. I'm trying to think. Again, I mentioned about working at Party City. That's probably the last time that I dressed up for Halloween. And the only reason was because the staff would find it funny. You know, like on a TV show when you've got somebody who comes in the costume and they've got that like dreaded look on their face as though they hate it, and it's just, that's what I would do, is because at Christmas, at St. Patrick's Day, at Halloween, I always got thrown into this costume and it made everybody laugh. And so maybe that's why I haven't dressed in a Halloween costume in a very, very long time. So anyway, needless to say, I'm guessing a lot of people probably wouldn't be able to go as the Kardashians to their workplace Halloween party or anything like that. So in summary, as we wrap up this last minute and a half here on the podcast, see, that's great vamping. That is a radio pro if I've ever heard one. Tell me about your favorite candy. Tell me about your favorite Halloween costume you've ever had. Show me your pet costumes. Send me an email. It's live@jbonair.com. live@jbonair.com. As you heard, those cheapskate tips for Halloween are from my best-selling book. You can check out the official guide to being an American cheapskate or the official guide to being a Winnipeg cheapskate on Amazon, iTunes, and at cheapskatebook.com. All right, well, I hope you have a happy Halloween. If I've given you any thoughts or ideas about how you can get through trick-or-treating with all those kids coming to your door, it's do it shot for shot. Shot of vodka for every boy, shot of whiskey for every girl that comes to the door if you're having friends over. There you go. Drink up, everybody. Cheers to you. My name is Jeremy Bradley, and this is The Scribble. Check out our daily entertainment headlines at entertainmentwrapup.com, entertainmentwrapup.com, and the celebrity guests that we've had on this show and on the radio shows at speakfreecelebwatch.com. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a Speak Free media presentation.
If you want some real heat,